Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I'm Chief of Detectives. I want to talk to you this afternoon with a little bit of a follow-up from our robbery and officer-involved shooting from yesterday evening. At 11:55 last night, the Walgreens store, which is located near Park and King at 2703 Park Avenue, there were two subjects who entered the store wearing dark clothing, masked, and wearing gloves. Both of the subjects who entered, they displayed handguns and immediately took control of the store, rounding up patrons and the employee of the store. They demanded money from the business, drugs from the business, as well as all of the patrons' watches, cell phones, wallets, and jewelry. While this actually was beginning to occur, the manager of the business was alerted by a customer that they thought he was about to be robbed. He made his way into an office, concealed himself, got on the phone immediately to 911, began giving information to our 911 dispatchers who initially dispatched officers to the scene. As the suspects came in and they were gathering the patrons and workers together, one of the subjects fired shots into the ceiling of the store. The store manager relayed that to the officers on the receiving end of the 911 call, and the receiving officers dispatched that to the officers who responded. As the two officers came up to the store, they surrounded the business. One went to the front, the other went to the rear of the store. The subjects completed the robbery, began to exit the store. Both of them went towards the front of the store. As the subjects exited the front of the store, the two officers who were at the front of the store gathered one of the subjects, got him under control, arrested him, and took him into custody. The second subject, who had started to exit the front of the store, turned around and ran towards the back of the store. While he was running through the store, he had fired additional shots inside the store as he was trying to exit the back door. Around that same time, one of the responding officers had made it to the back of the store while establishing the perimeter, heard the shots from inside. The subject exited the back of the store, still carrying the gun. That officer, feeling threatened, obviously, by the subject coming out of a robbery where shots had been fired at the suspect carrying the gun, he discharged his issued rifle 3 times at the subject. The subject was not hit any of those shots. The suspect gave up and was taken into custody by the officers there. There was no property damage, no injuries to the officers, the subjects who were committing the robbery, patrons, or anybody else in the neighborhood. One of the 3 shots struck the back of the building and was the only property damage while there. That officer that was involved is 13-year veteran Officer Gerald S. Medlock, and as per our policy, he was placed on administrative leave following that shooting. Give you information on the suspects. The suspect who exited the front of the store is 22-year-old Victor Mackey. His last known address is 1500 block of Duval Road, and he was actually armed with a BB pistol as he came out of the store. He's got a criminal history with some arrests for assault as a juvenile. The subject who exited the rear of the store and was shot at by the officers is 21-year-old John Spalding, with the last known address of Buckrow Avenue. Now, he was actually armed with a real gun, obviously. It's a 9mm high-point handgun, and he's got a criminal history involved with burglary. We feel like subject Spalding is also responsible for at least 3 other robberies, which investigation continues and charges are pending. Those robberies all involve either pharmacies, similar nature to this one, or a Shell station with the same kind of robbery involved. One of the robberies at the pharmacy also involved shots being fired inside. But again, like I say, the investigation of that continues. The charges against Spalding especially are pending. I can answer a few questions regarding that if you have any. The photo displayed to my left is the officer, or is the gun which Spalding had in his possession as he exited the store. And a digital copy of that will be forwarded to you.
That bullet hit the rear of the store.
Yes.
Yes.
Just to reiterate, nobody was harmed. Everybody got their stuff back.
Yeah, again, this is a 24-hour business. The several patrons inside, each of them were obviously terrorized by being robbed as well as the business. There were no physical injuries to, luckily, any of the citizens, any of the employees, or any of the officers.
How many people were inside, you know?
I'd have to get the specific number for it, but there were several people, probably close to a dozen people who were actually inside the store.
Do you have a time frame on how long these other robberies that you're continuing to investigate have been going on for?
Yeah, they date back, starting about May 30th, and go until June 17th. I had one on June 13th, and then the one from last night. So they're a little bit separated by a few weeks by each one of them, but very similar in nature to it. And again, it's still working through. That's kind of what.
Was anyone harmed in any of those cases?
No, unfortunately, there was no injuries in any of these cases. However, they were all armed robberies, and like I said, and one of those involved actually shots being fired inside the business as well.
Which one was that?
That was, I believe, of Walgreens, and I'm not going to specifically release the exact information because those charges are still being worked on, investigated by detectives now. But the cases did involve those of a similar nature, and again, one being shots fired.
Any other questions regarding this case?
Is there a danger to firing a rifle in the city limits? That's what the officer used? Or is there,
Well, the danger of firing a rifle at all is that somebody would be struck with it.
no, but I mean, the rounds travel pretty far, I would imagine. So.
Well, keep in mind that these shots aren't fired just willy-nilly. This was fired at a subject who was in the commission of a felony, who was exiting. The officer was concerned with the backdrop. Obviously, the backdrop was that of the concrete wall of the store. Officers use common sense and certainly discretion as to where they would discharge their firearm and where those bullets may go.
Any other questions?
The officer's name is in any of these reports, or can you spell it for him?
Gerald, Gerald, S, and we have two medlocks, MED, LOCK.
E-D, L-O-C-K, and do you have an age, or?
He's a 13-year veteran, and I can get you his age if you need. But we have two Gerald medlocks on the department, so
So the S is?
the S is important.
M-E-D,
LOCK.
Any other questions?